Look how beautiful it is. There's my dad, right there. The first time I made homemade natural inks was back in the fall of 2020. My sister and I ventured out to North Vancouver here in Canada and scavenged for dye materials at a local beach. It's since become such a wonderful core memory during what were not so wonderful times. That experience has been forever documented in the form of one of my earlier videos here on YouTube, which has surprisingly become my top performing. And while riding on the coattails of this success would probably have been a smart move to make, in truth, while I did enjoy experimenting with DIY art supplies during the early days, the desire to experiment just sort of faded. I told myself I wouldn't force it. If the urge to make inks or watercolor paper returned, then I would consider documenting the process. Cutie. But if not, then I wouldn't make it happen. Hey guys, Julie here, and in this video we are dusting off these guys here, these glass eyedropper bottles, and we are going to make some more botanical inks. Are you excited? These were some of the colors we came up with last time. So as you can see, I used avocado, tree bark, pinecone moss, butterfly pea flower with different acidity levels, and rhubarb tea. They're very natural looking colors, lots of browns. It was hard to get any blues or purples. So let's see what we could come up with today. About a year ago, yes, it's been a whole year, I went foraging for some dye materials. These have been living in my freezer ever since. So we have some of these yellow flowers here. They're all mushy because they kind of defrosted a little. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about this. Some frozen berries. They're still icy. Oh, these are leaves? I think these are leaves. Some more yellow flower buds. These are red flower buds. Not sure what type of flower. Don't ask, I have no idea. Ooh, yuck. So, okay, I pulled these out of the freezer and then I was like, you know what, I'm hungry. So I made lunch. So they all kind of defrosted a little bit. These are some kind of blackish berry. More of these flowers. I guess they're all slightly different, but I'll probably end up combining them. These two kind of look similar. These guys are way past due, and they've been sitting idle in my freezer, so I think it's time to turn them into inks. Okay, these berries are like defrosting. I wonder if we could get a purple from these. Ooh, look at that. And let's go with these yellow flowers here. I'm gonna mix all of the yellow ones together. Clearly, I don't have this down to any form of a science. We are just playing and experimenting. This is how I do things. If you're new here, this is how I do things. There's, you know, it's all very messy and a little disorganized. I did not think that through. Hello, how are you today? What a beautiful day. look what I found. These were my swatches from the first attempt at making ink. Some of it have faded, but this was from the butterfly pea flower. Look how beautiful that green color is. And I'll mix this one as well. Oh wow. I should have kept the camera on this. Do you see how much that darkened? Oh, that's really cool. Okay, first let's test the aluminum sulfate. Not really giving anything. I might need to actually boil it with the aluminum sulfate in it. So I might have to put these little teacups back in the pan to see if it changes anything. Ooh, hello. Okay, so this is washing soda, aluminum sulfate, and nothing. It really drew out the color. Look how dark that is. That is beautiful. Ooh. Oh shit. I panicked. I was not expecting that to react like that. Oh my god. Don't worry, it's washing soda. It's not toxic. It's basically baking soda, but it's processed a little bit differently. Yeah, was not expecting it to fizzle like that. That is a bit shocking. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. Doesn't look very happy. Looks a little angry, actually. Interesting. Oh, wow. Okay, so it's drying purple. It's drying purple. Oh, and this one here is drying a little bit green. So this is the berries mixed with aluminum sulfate. This is just the berries with nothing added to it. And this is berries mixed with washing soda. Interesting. The beautiful thing about making inks out of botanical materials is that it actually makes you see the world differently. Now when I see a beautiful bright flower in bloom, my first thought is, I wonder what color I could drain out of that by boiling it to a pulp. Not sure if that's a good shift in perspective or a concerning one, but that's besides the point. Surprisingly, despite most of the trees being bare when my dad and I ventured out, and most of the flowers dying off, autumn did bring about no shortage of dye materials. Although I bet the spring just has way more variety in color. The beautiful thing about working with natural ink is that you don't really know what to expect. You don't know what colors you'll truly end up with. And the most magical part is watching how acidity levels affects the hues of your inks. Stay with me. Stay with me, okay? I'm not gonna get all scientific on you, mainly because I do not understand myself. I just know it looks pretty to watch, okay? As the most vanilla example, you can get a deep blue if you incorporate washing soda into a red cabbage ink, or a warm pink if you take that same liquid and add vinegar or alum instead. I'm not joking when I say it feels like a science experiment, because it legitimately is chemistry. Not that I know anything about the chemical reactions or even take notes on my methods or processes. I am telling you right now that if I wanted to recreate any of these inks, I would have such a hard time, because I don't even know what I plucked. It was over a year ago, and I grabbed things that looked like they would potentially make pretty colors. I don't know what trees I pulled from or what flowers I have no idea. No idea, not a clue. Listen, if you are looking for an ink making video that's by the book, you truly came to the wrong place. The steps are simple. Find items, whether it be tea in your pantry, leaves outside, or fruits from the supermarket. You don't have to forage like I did. You can find ink making materials anywhere. I also have family in South America, and oh my gosh, how cool would it be to gather dye materials the next time I visit? I could show you around my grandma's farm. I think that would be such a cool experience to document, so we'll see. Essentially, once you have your dye materials ready, you boil them down in water. I just use tap water, testing the colors with strips of paper until you reach your desired intensity. And while your botanical soups are on the flame, you have the option to add a mordant to draw out the colors even more. In my case, I used washing soda as my alkaline base and aluminum sulfate as my acidic one. Why did I use items that are a lot harder to find? Well, I actually had these from my pigment powder making days, which I also have some old videos of if you're interested in that. So I just used what I had. But there are other options. You can use baking soda in place of washing soda, and lemon juice or vinegar or alum in place of aluminum sulfite. I found this to be the most exciting part, and I don't think you'd disagree with me. These mordants can draw out colors and deepen them so dramatically. It's definitely a worthwhile transformation to behold. And you can see through this video just how much the mordants changes the hue and intensity of my inks. It's really neat to place these inks side by side to see just how differently the acidity levels affect each batch of raw material, which I do show you a comparison of in this video, so stay tuned. Afterwards, I filtered out the liquid using coffee filters, which actually ended up being the most time-consuming part. I don't know if it just felt longer because I was excited to get on with the process, but oh my gosh, some of these inks took over an hour to filter out, just for a tiny bit of liquid. Afterwards, I prepped them to be bottled up. I picked up these super extra glass eyedropper bottles from Amazon. It was an unnecessary splurge, but I have no regrets. I think they look great. And I was actually planning to sell these at one point, which is why I bought these special bottles in the first place. But yeah, that didn't end up happening. I don't think it ever will. I will unabashedly link these specific bottles down below, along with all supplies and materials I've used as usual. But if you do have the option to shop local and use whatever teeny containers you have kicking around, please do that before ordering from Amazon. So to prep them, I needed to do a couple of things. Firstly, I had to add a preservative of choice. Since this essentially is leaf broth, it is organic materials, so you've got to do something about that to make them last. I chose to preserve my inks with clove oil, since that's what we use to preserve watercolor binder. And since I've made my own watercolor in the past, I had some kicking around. I figured it would have the same preservation effect on ink. I also read that you could use a whole clove as a preservative. This I've never tried, but apparently you could just drop one in the container you use to store your inks and call it a day. I'm sure there are other options to preserve as well. I've used grapeseed oil and vitamin E oil to preserve DIY beauty products. That's right, I'm a multifaceted individual. I don't just make art supplies once every 3 years, I'll have you know. I also make the odd lip balm. I've never tried these in inks, but I'm assuming they'd have a similar effect. Let me know if you've tried these alternative preservatives down below. They also don't have a scent, unlike clove oil. Finally, we need to add something to the now preserved leaf tea to thicken it a little bit. Ink normally has a higher viscosity than water. You can use it straight, but I prefer to give it a little bit of body so that it really adheres to the paper nicely. In this case, I used some gum arabic, just a teeny bit. If you use too much, your inks will take forever to dry. The gum arabic I have, and again, gum arabic, not a common household item. I had to special order some, and I have it because I needed it to make watercolor binder. But my gum arabic is in a powdered form. It needs to dissolve in a bit of a warmer liquid. So in the moments where I was taking too long to handle my inks, I would just pop them in the microwave for 10 seconds until it was warm enough for the gum arabic to dissolve. In terms of viable alternatives, I'm sure it would have a similar effect if you were to use honey. Since gum arabic is a type of tree sap, honey would have that kind of consistency. Let me know if you give that a try, and if you are an ink making connoisseur, please do share your tips and tricks down below so that other mad art scientists are able to try that out as well. I found that in my DIY art supply videos, I've gotten so much advice from people who either, make paper or watercolors for a living, or they just do it for fun and they have a more methodical approach. And I've found those tips super helpful, and I'm sure others will as well. So feel free to share your secrets. Now, even with using naturally derived preservatives, your inks won't last forever. They probably have a shelf life of maybe 6 months, possibly up to 10 if stored in a cool, dark place. Maybe up to a year in the fridge. I have no idea. I'm kind of making this up based on memory, but I do remember being surprised of how long my inks lasted. And I think I did try them out again at the 8-month mark, and pretty sure they were still working well. I don't know, that was years ago. I have no idea. This time around, though, I will keep better track so that in the future I could give you a much more accurate time frame. But I did actually document how my first batch was doing 3 years later when I returned from South Korea, and I posted a video update comparing the colors. I found that the art I created with them maintained the colors pretty well, aside from some minor shifts in hues. But using the ink straight out of the bottle, some of the colors really changed dramatically. And then later on, I posted a short about them, maybe a month after that update, and they did grow mold. So this didn't happen so much between the 3 years I left them sitting under my bed, but it happened between the 3 years and 1 month after. So I think it was because I reintroduced the inks to oxygen after so long, they just spoiled instantly. So maybe with constant use, they will spoil more quickly. I don't know, but I will actually take notes this time, okay? This is what I've got so far. It's pretty neat because you don't actually know what colors you'll end up with, especially if you mix the two inks that have different acidity levels. You could end up with a completely different color. I really like these two, how they turned out, but of course they're not done yet. I just got the initial colors down. Next, we're gonna define the shapes with some colored pencils. And this is actually a set of colored pencils I got from a thrift store for $2. The reason why I decided on these colored pencils is because I have some Barrel Prismacolor Scholars, vintage ones from the States. If you're new here, I absolutely love thrifting for art supplies, and these are some other colored pencils that I picked up. Making art with natural materials will lead to instability. Colors change and fade over time, just like any organic material. To me, it's part of the beauty and joy of working with naturally derived art supplies. The art you make with these inks are not going to be frozen in time. They'll change and evolve as time passes. Ain't that sexy as hell? Come on. Okay, I'll stop preaching. So remember how we made different sets of inks at different acidity levels? Just because we bottle these babies up and we finish the process doesn't change the fact that they're still, how do I word this, at different acidity levels. As in, mixing washing soda inks together won't completely change the hue, but layering a washing soda ink on top of an aluminum sulfite ink will definitely do just that. So if you label your ink containers, make sure to specify which mordant you used. But if you're keen on having your art supplies surprise you, I say use them blind. It's more fun that way. And that's exactly what I did after putting all the inks on my paint palette. I just reached for whatever colors looked cool on the palette and watched as they changed on the paper. If you pay close enough attention, you can also see that when I use my reddish pink ink, it turns purple on the paper because of how it's layered. It's pretty cool to witness. Did this whole experience reawaken my desire to make art supplies? Maybe a little bit. There are other things I'd like to focus on too, so I don't think it'll become my whole personality like it did back in the day, but it is nice to take what is my favorite video and one of my favorite memories and revive the whole experience. It always feels more special creating art with a supply that you make from scratch. And how often do you get to say that? What a way to incorporate creativity into the entire art making process. I'm telling you, go out, grab some random leaves, toss them in the pot, forget about them for like 30 minutes. Make ink. It's so easy. It's so fun. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out my very first ink making video, along with the 3 years later update video, so that you know what's in store for your homemade inks. I have a few other DIY art supply videos, including one on making cotton watercolor paper, which I'm also planning to update one of these days. Wink, stay tuned. And if you're interested in unique thrifted art supplies, I have quite a few videos on my thrift store arty finds. I have a video coming up on, wait for it, working with century-old Polish watercolor paints from World War II. How thrilling. Isn't that just nuts? Anyways. As always, I'll link all mentioned videos down below. Like, subscribe, comment, or don't. Hang with a friend, fix a healthy snack, or just laze around and watch a movie. Have a beautiful day and happy ink making. Peace.